G'day, welcome to episode 23 of Fearless Singer. I'm so excited because I'm talking with Kylie Stephenson. She is a singer, she's an actor, she is a Fearless Singer member, but most of all, you're the epitome of a Fearless Singer. So welcome on the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Mel. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
And so the reason why I thought I'd bring Kylie on is because I feel like you've been acting and performing for many, many years, but just in the last, probably 6 months, you've gone, okay, these are the things that I want, i.e. I want to be performing in a band, and it's been a very quick turnaround. You're already now performing in a band. However, it wasn't an easy time to get to that point. So that's what I want you to talk about. Okay. Overcoming some of those fear barriers that you have to be, honestly, you absolutely nailed the Fearless Singer jam the other week. It was absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, I think if we can start off with, when did you get started with singing and performing? And then where did it sort of start to go a little bit like, how's you going in terms of, like getting those performing nerves?
I guess, my mother always said that, I've not always had a stage, but I've always been a performer. So that probably was my temper tantrums when I was about 2. However, I do recall when I was in primary school, one of my first songs I ever wrote with my best friend was called Green Little Slimy Things. We used to perform that to all our friends, and I also had a skit show called Kylie Minogue Jr. that I'd put on at every school camp. So, from when I was a very small child, I always loved to perform. However, I was a very nervous child. I would take my sister to the bathroom in the night because I thought that I was going to get, the boogeyman was coming out, or, very imaginative in that way. So, and I wouldn't talk to anyone without them talking to me first. Quite highly strung, anxious child. However, I really love the stage and the creative process when it comes to writing shows and expressing myself in that way, because it felt like it was me, but it was a place where I could disappear on the stage. No one actually, I wasn't performing to people, I was just performing to get out some of those zoomies and the energy that I have inside of me. So yeah, from a very young age. I think the first time I started noticing I was getting performance anxiety was not necessarily with performing. I think it was any, putting my hand up in class or getting picked to answer a question at class and being put on the spot without being able to have to consider an answer, or the risk of being wrong, incorrect, and then ridiculed because of it was a terrible fear instilled in me in school. And
can I say that since then we learn, in education now not to do that to kids. Yeah. Yeah, just to, really, don't call people out, understanding where they're at, you would just never, you'd never do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, when it came to singing, I wasn't a natural singer. I had a lot of issues being able to hear pitch. I had a lot of issues. I played in the concert band. I was stuck with oboe for a year, which my lovely conductor needed an oboist in the concert band, and there was no one wanting to play it. So he's like, if you can play this for a year, you can play any instrument you want. So I went,
cool trade-off.
Okay. So I played this thing for a year. Not gonna lie, sounded a bit like a constipated duck. Can we say that?
Yes.
Yep. For that entire year.
Just not the autotype correct duck.
Oh no.
You don't want to be a constipated the other
thingy.
Thing.
Yeah. Fire truck.
Yeah.
But I played that for a year, and then I got to play whatever I wanted, and I played tenor saxophone for 5 years.
Oh, that's so cool.
Not gonna lie again, was not someone who could just pull out a solo, but I could I could read music and play it, and I was too scared to deviate because in case I was going to be wrong or make a mistake, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself in front of people. So I did that. But I would sit there in the tuning when you tune the whole band. I couldn't tell if my instrument was in tune or not. And I was lucky I was on a reed instrument because they're not.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't really tune a saxophone.
No.
I
was so lucky. But I could not hear it at all. And that didn't really bother me because I had, things written on a stave I could follow and play and hope that it sounded okay. It wasn't until I was starting to perform in musicals that I had to sing and try and sing in the choir and sing, and that's an instrument you obviously have to always work on and tune and be able to hear what you're doing. And I had a lot of trouble differentiating between pitch. And I think over the years, the training here for me is muscle memory and trusting the pattern recognition I have rather than naturally being able to find pitch. And I still struggle with that to this day. My ear is a lot better, but...
You've worked very, very hard on it. And actually, for me, you're a real testament to, no, everybody can learn pitch. Unless you are like a very, very tiny, small percentile of the population that are tone deaf. Yeah. But that means that is so extremely rare. If you are in that category, you're unique, and I would, honour that. But yeah, like for everybody else, pitch can be 100% learnt.
And I think it's that concept of, beautiful people don't have to work on their personality. So I had to work on my stage presence. I had to work on the craft in a way that I built up around me the other skills I had to offer when I perform in front of people and just work madly behind the scenes to make sure that I was developing my pitch. I was always very lucky, had very good natural tone and resonance. But, before Mel, I had a lot of trouble with my breathing and also the anxiety around that. When I started singing in musicals in grade 9, I had a music teacher who was probably shouldn't have been a music teacher because she said, I'm casting you in this musical, in this role because you're so good at singing off key.
I remember you telling me that.
And it absolutely broke my heart.
Horrible.
And that frightened me. And then it,
she shouldn't, like, not that she shouldn't have been a music teacher. If you're going to make horrible comments to kids like that, you shouldn't be a teacher. Full stop. That's called child abuse. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't think I have no feelings with that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel, but I do think that's where maybe some of this narrative I've developed about pitching has started from, because I was a free performer before that, really free. And, I would express myself in the weirdest ways too. Like, I wasn't a conventional performer either. I would do wacky stuff. Like, I think I had a band when I was in grade 9 called Indiana Jones and the Microphones, and I was Indiana Jones, and I would rap, like, in Mount Isa. Cool. In Mount Isa, like, where people would be like, who is this person?
I had no idea you're from Mount Isa.
Yeah, I lived in Mount Isa 10 years. My dad's a miner. So,
oh, my God.
Yeah, I grew up out there.
Wow. So are we talking, like, very young till, like, teens? Or
7 to finishing high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was, an eye-opener. The good thing is that we did have access to music. Our high school put on a musical every year. Yeah. We got to travel for fanfare.
There are some mofo singers that have come out of Mount Isa. Do you know Chrislyn Hamilton?
No.
Oh, she's she's based in Perth now. She was in Brisbane for a long time, but yeah, she's from Mount Isa.
Yeah. I think Greg Norman was in Mount Isa, and I think
is Greg Norman, is he a golfer?
Golfer.
I was going to say,
Pat Rafter.
I was about to say, is Greg Norman a singer?
He might be.
Yeah.
I reckon he would croon.
Hang on, is Greg Norman still alive?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, that's so random.
Do we have the producer to fact check?
Yeah, producer, Basie, Count Basie, where are you?
Yeah, no, words in, it's undetermined. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was interesting growing up out there because my family were a real sporting family, so I didn't get a lot of support for my music and artistic stuff at home because my parents didn't really understand. They were really focused on sport, and, you know, both my parents are relatively introverted people, and though I am an introvert, I was very expressive, a bit over the top. Have learned to rein in the dramatics a little bit over the years, knowing that it is something that I do keep to the stage now, and learning to be your authentic self when you are socially anxious instead of verbal vomiting over people, overcompensating by not sitting in your own self comfortably. So it took a long time to develop that, but yeah, I think my parents did not know how to support somebody who had this absolute passion to creatively express themselves. So yeah, it was difficult finding my own way. So it wasn't like, you know, my parents were putting me through singing lessons or music lessons or anything like that. I relied on the state school system, which fortunately in Mount Isa we did have that. We had instruments we could hire and we had teachers we had access to, but it wasn't ever extracurricular for me.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I know this might seem a bit random, this link, but I was talking to a singer last night, Ingrid James, at the Jazz Club, and she was talking about highly sensory people. Yeah, and that, and I identify as that. I have obviously not diagnosed, but I resonate with a lot of the different traits, but I can so relate to everything that you just spoke about, you know, growing up, wanting to put on the shows. That's why I sort of express myself as well. And where I got a lot of validation, I also was so spooked out, like in my house. And if I had a sister, I would be like, my brother would, you know, wake up and then find me just like with a little sleeping bag on the floor going, oh, g'day. Yeah, don't mind me. You know, same thing. And I wonder whether it is that, just part of being highly sensory.
Yes.
Feel everything, pick up on a lot of big emotions in a space, like a real empath.
I think so. You know, even if I see an ambulance roar past, I get short of breath and anxious and then my mind just goes to these places, and I've had to learn to rein it in because I lose a lot of energy if I let it go in those ways, and then I don't have the energy to give to things that are important. So I've learnt to rein it in. But yeah, anything like that, my mind would be going, does the person know who's the most important to that person know they're in an ambulance right now? Or like, you know, my mind would just go to these crazy areas. Like I saw a duck on the road once when I was driving home late at night, and I'm like, oh, what's he doing on the road? So I stopped the car and walked up and found that he was standing next to his mate that had been collected by a car. And I went home to my partner at the time, and I just burst into tears, and I was rambling about these ducks and that, you know, that despite even, you know, that they weren't there, they were still there, and the dedication and commitment and you know, but it was so sad because they just have lost their life partner, and I think he thought I was a bit nuts. But, you know, that's okay, but we take things on and we consider things in a way that is often could be called, oh, you're so weird. Why do you think like that? That's not normal.
Well, apparently I didn't realise. I think because, you know, we live in our own POV, our own little scope, you kind of think that everyone's like you.
Yeah.
That everyone feels that deeply about, I would do exactly the same thing. I remember just, you know, I drive back to Bundaberg a lot and you see all the roadkill and you go, this man-made world wasn't designed for the natural world. And, you know, I'd just go into a massive, you know, spiral because of that. And then you think, well, you're currently driving a car, mate, you know, to get home to your family.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
Thing. Yeah.
So I can totally identify with that. But apparently HSP people are a very small percentage. Most people can kind of, I don't know, like obviously, you know, they see something that's dead and obviously feel like, oh, that's sad, but not take on the
energy.
The story of it all, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and it took a long time to dissociate from that, and as a child, because I was very hypersensory, so it took a long time to be able to be self-aware enough, and also detach myself from the ego and the validation I would get from sensing things very quickly. Like I would always think that someone was mad at me when it was not like that, or I was very insecure about what people would think of me, even to the point where I'd be completely hyper imagination, where I thought I saw a flashlight outside my window all night just wiggling around, and I sat there and stared at it all night, and then the dawn came. It was the street lamp. Emotionless street lamp. So my eyes had completely derived some kind of self-edited narrative about there is somebody outside the window. And
how old were you when that happened?
I would put me at 9 or 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would constantly take my sister to the bathroom. And this is because I would just sense things, and even to this day I don't sleep particularly well at times because I hear every single thing that's going on, or sensing, the fight or flight goes quite a lot. And it's cool your jets, lady, like you're safe, you're okay. And I think a lot of, with the performance anxiety, that hypersensory tied in also with that fear of not being good enough and also doing something wrong. And put that together, and then it can seep into every area of your life. Like even for me, if I have to have a meeting and I have to speak in the meeting, I'm already sweating, I'm freaking out, I'm shaking. Like when I give interviews for people or have to ring somebody to do a phone screen for recruitment or anything like that in my job, I'm shaking and stuff because the adrenaline just goes really hard. And it's not like rationally, I'm not thinking of it as a scary thing. Oh, this is scary, anything. But my body will still take over to this day.
And that's where a lot of us sit. We sit in flight fight. It's like your body doesn't distinguish between those slight anxieties around meeting or having to speak up or being called upon to answer a question in a classroom. Your body still perceives it as you're about to get bitten by a dinosaur, and you need to. And a lot of my teaching now is around, okay, let's learn all the skills, let's get the big tool bag on of all the things that we can do, just little quick things to get ourselves out of fight so that our body feels safe. And I just wanted to validate you, like with the, even just noises in the night and things like that. If I'm in a hyper anxious state, and I haven't done my tapping, I haven't done, or just sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it just happens. You go, oh shit, I'm here. I'm hyper anxious. But I do exactly the same thing. And the tapping helps me in those moments just to, the amygdala starts calming down, send signal through the body. And then, those noises don't feel like,
exactly,
like a big life-threatening, someone's going to break in.
Yeah. And it often comes down to, it's a hyperactive brainstem or nervous system. That you can calm down by doing, tapping, mindfulness, all sorts of things, whatever works for you. For me, I really enjoy the tapping with you. Before that impromptu first gig that I did the other night, full gig that was thrown on us one day before, and we haven't done it as a band.
That's what I want to talk about. This is honestly, this was amazing. I just want to point out that probably about a couple of months ago, the idea of performing with a band would have freaked you the fuck out.
Not gonna lie.
And like that's no like and by the way, Kylie is so phenomenally talented, and I'm just that I know, sorry, cringe. don't no
Thank you,
cringe. This is a
Mel.
cringe-free zone. No, but she really is just so phenomenal to watch. She's just a beautiful singer, incredible performer. She lights up a stage. She's so fucking funny. You're so hilarious and just really quick. And for me, you're just to watch you. It's like watching a consummate performer who's done it for a long time. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I do see that a lot. I see very classically good, so I try to avoid using polarity language, good, bad, because the reality is we all have a unique voice and a unique way of expressing ourselves. And I always say this to people that come through. Look at Bob Dylan. Did he have the most classically, what you'd say commercial sounding voice? No, but he was a phenomenal storyteller. So he was able to harness his strengths to, be the great Bob Dylan. You can say the same thing about Marianne Faithfull, all these unique voices. Whereas Kylie is has the commercial sound, has all these amazing things. So what I'm trying to say is you can have it all, but still have anxiety, around performing. Yeah. And so yeah, just and to validate you as well, because it's a thing, and we've all experienced it or experience it. This is the other thing. We might get to one part of our performing life, we've released a lot of the layers through whatever modalities that we use, but still we want to go to that next level in our career or whatever it is, and it brings up imposter syndrome. It brings up all sorts of random stuff from your childhood that you're like, I forgot that even happened.
I
wasn't
trained at the best school in music to do this and that.
Yeah,
and then
I was a lazy child.
Yeah, I'm still lazy now. Like, honestly.
No, you're
Mel's
not.
like, have you done your warm-up vocals for that? I'm like,
Yeah, but also too, my whole thing is this shame-free zone. You do what you can.
Absolutely.
Shame is so counterintuitive.
Well,
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
There's no point in shame, and I think that's taken a long time for me to not be motivated by it as well. I think a lot of my motivations weren't because I wanted to do things because of pure joy. I would get off my butt and have a firecracker up my ass when there's an anvil over my head, in the premise that I'm going to fail miserably on my face. So I would be motivated by that. But now I'm actually motivated by, I actually love to perform, and I love to, sing is one of my most favorite things. Yeah, it's probably one of the scariest things I do as well for my own self, and the thing I've worked hardest on, whereas acting came very naturally to me. And I studied, formal acting, but I never went to school. I tried to go to school for music, and then I had so many panic attacks each time I'd go to class because I had to perform in front of all these gifted performers that I quit. I had to drop out of music school. And I'm not talking when I was 20 years old. I went to music school. I started when I was 33, I think, Mel?
Yeah.
Or 34 years
a few
old.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a mature age, and I put so much expectation on myself to be perfect immediately that I psyched myself out so bad, and actually I had to see a psychologist for a while because I needed to work on some tools to be able to release the fact that just because you've made a decision and you've committed to something doesn't mean that is it for the rest of your life, and you're not allowed to change your mind or change your feelings about something.
And also too, you can always go back to it if you want to.
Always.
Yeah, that would be so. Just want to honour you for sharing that story, because that would be so validating for a lot of people.
It is.
Yeah, that start something and go, I don't feel well enough. At this point to go through with this.
Yeah. And the psychologist said to me, she's like, you are a singer. You love to sing. The way you end up doing it can be any which way you choose and what feels right for you. So just because that didn't work for you now doesn't mean you're not a singer, or you're not going to perform, or you're not going to do it in a different way. There's a million ways to skin the singing cat, you know, per se, or the performing cat.
Just want to go and cover Basie's ears while you said that.
Yeah. He's too cute to do anything like that.
No.
But, you know, there's many ways to the goal.
Oh.
The journey is the important bit, and that's why it's so individualized, because the typical journey, the conventional journey, may not suit everybody.
That's
and for me,
100%. That's the best
university
advice.
and music,
Yeah.
it works for some people. I love having framework. I love method. I'm an analytical person. I need to work within processes and frameworks and understand how things work before I can go and be a free form. You know, like that example about me understanding music and being able to read it and play what's exactly the notes on there. I had to do that a very long time. And I don't do that with singing because I'm not conventionally trained in singing. I've been with Mel for, I'd say, over 10 years probably.
Oh, on and off. Yeah, it wasn't. So after you got into that course, I didn't see you for quite a few years.
No, I freaked out and didn't do anything for some time. I had to work
I
on
was
myself.
like, there's a void in my life and I don't know what it is until you came back.
Yeah.
But then we've only really been working, I think,
solidly
for the last year. Yeah.
I think so.
And you've just, honestly, every time you sing, you're better than the week before. And again, I try to avoid Gaelic type of language, like you're better, but I feel like with you, you're becoming more of yourself and more sure of yourself. I always love that analogy of, is it Michelangelo that was chipping away at the block, and someone said, you know, how do you do that? Like, how do you sculpt something so beautiful? And he said, well, I just keep chipping away. I see the angel inside and I just keep chipping away until I get to her. And I feel like that's what I see with most of my students. Yeah, including yourself, or actually all of my students. That you just, every week, it's like you're just a little bit more sure of what you, and more trusting in your instrument, because you know that you do the work, even if you do miss a few days here and there. You always, I just want to also point out that when you're thinking about singing, and even if you're visualizing singing, your vocal folds are still working. Yeah. So you don't actually have to physically make the sound for this stuff to be working for you. You could be in the shower, like doing your funny little sounds and experimenting with sound. You could be, washing up as you're thinking about like some of the concepts that you've learned in a session. But it's doing the work. But I just wanted to point out that, I keep coming back to this, and I probably sound a bit repetitive, but before the gig that we did at Can You Keep a Secret, you did have quite a bit of anxiety before that. Did you do some tapping around that to help? Yeah.
I was very, I had to do a real express one because I had worked from 8 till 6 that day. I did a little bit of tapping on the way over. However, I was very nervous. And then I ended up having too many gins and tonics that night, and I did not perform to my best ability. So I took that as a note on board to make sure that I find other methods to be able to relieve my anxiety, because I know that, if having one or two drinks gives you a bit more of a relaxation, or gives you the courage to be able to overcome some of those nerves, by all means. But for me, I had one too many, which then affected my ability to sort of support my breath properly, or really be mindful about what I'm doing and remember my technique.
Everyone's so different. There's people that can have a good, chug back a few beers and get up on stage. And I know if I drank beer before a gig, I'd be burping and farting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But a couple of like scotches. Also, but also too, I don't have I don't moralize alcohol or food or I don't. I know there'll be people that go, no, you should not be drinking before you go on. But if that works for people not to, then that's fine. That's people's choices.
Well, that's why we have our own choices about what we do with ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think, we need to respect people's process.
Yeah.
I did it because I was masking anxiety rather than using it as a tool.
All right. Okay.
So that then led me on to, when we, because after that gig, my band suddenly picked up a full first gig, and we have only been rehearsing. I think we had 4 rehearsals together to put together a 2-hour set list, and we're just working towards the goal of getting a gig. And then suddenly on a Wednesday night, we got offered a gig for a Saturday night, and we had to then scramble to get everything together to be able to do that. And on the Saturday, I was very fortunate that I had a lesson with Mel, and we did some serious tapping that morning because I came in incredibly in heightened energy. I was quite on the verge of, I think, having a little bit of a breakdown. And it was good because we did the tapping and it calmed it down, and then I had another freak out. But then I went and tapped after that and did other breathing and mindfulness exercises, made sure I was prepared. Like even just the pure act of checking all of your gear, you've got everything ready to go in place, it's ready to put in the car. Having everything prepared well in advance really alleviated my nerves as well. So for me, being prepared is one of those things that helps. And having a checklist. When you're heightened, you can't think well. So I like to have checklists and things like that. And I do it in my job a lot.
Do you
as well.
write the checklist before you're feeling the heightened
absolutely
feelings?
Yeah. It becomes muscle memory after a while.
Yeah.
You know exactly what to look for and what you need when you are heightened. And I fall into the secure place of thinking almost too rationally, where it's like A, B, C, D, but it does calm me down a lot when I'm not thinking about the possibility of things not going right. And also I start challenging the narratives a lot in my mind, going, well, what's the worst that can happen? Voicing those anxieties as well. Like during the tapping, it's really good, but my band is such a supportive group of people, and we discuss these anxieties. If we say yes to this, what are the things that could be the worst things that could happen?
That's so evolved.
So we just talk about it. Well, we're all
so lovely.
Bar our beautiful bass player who's 18 years old. The rest of us are post 40.
Oh, right.
And we all have careers. There's kids. You've had a lifetime to have to be organized, think rationally, take perspective.
That's wonderful.
Or try to. And I have a group of people who are a dream team.
I just also want to point out that Kylie attracted that with tapping. So that was the other thing too. So you can use EFT, to clear those old narratives. So anything that comes up, and to help your nervous system feel safe. It does that. But while you're then in that more expansive state, that's when you can start actually affirming what it is that you want. And you can see it from 2 angles. You can see it from the spiritual point of view of the universe, or you can actually just see it from the scientific subconscious mind point of view. You're actually activating your RAS, and which is then it's designed our reticular activating system. Yeah, that's what it is. It then starts to, honestly, it's tuned just to see opportunities and then to be able to take action.
Yeah.
It's like when you start looking up a brand of car, or you do kind of the algorithm then starts sending you stuff, but even you start seeing it on the street and stuff like that. So that's your RAS that's activated, and that's what you're doing. So you can actually use it while you're in that more expansive state to bring in those things, those goals that you actually want.
Yeah, and it was almost purely like that. I've also been recently doing a lot more work around actual goal setting, and not just setting goals, but actually creating checklists of how to get to the goal, like really thinking it through. And this just so happened to unravel on its own, even though, you know, through tapping, I'm like, I'm ready, I can do this. I can start thinking about touching base with some musicians to maybe collaborate. But then I was contacted through through Bandmix, which is like a classifieds for musicians, and they were looking for a new front person for the band because they've had a bit of a reshuffle. And I auditioned, and they brought me on board, which was amazing. So that goal kind of unraveled on its own, and I think it was because I was open to it.
I also remember talking about it when we actually talked about particular personality types. So you can actually, when you write those goals, actually don't just write down, I want to be in a, this is, sorry, I'm not directed to you. Yeah. I want to be in a band. Write down, I want to be in a collaborative band with supportive, kind, thoughtful individuals, you know, so actually be very specific as to who you want to work with as well. Yeah.
I think it is incredibly important that you are specific with those kinds of things, because then you know your own boundaries and you know what you're willing to accept. Because if you know, there's one thing of being able to be a wonderful performer, but it's really 50-50. The other 50% is how you are to work with and who you're working with. How you are with your professionalism, how you are with your organisation, your facilitation, your coordination of things, and just being a general really good human who can take on feedback and also be able to give it to people as well. And you could be the best performer in the world, but if you're shit to work with, no one's going to want to work with you. There's plenty of people who are talented. There's a wonderful network of musicians who have so many skills, but you need to find the right sort of collaboration to make it gel and work well, because, you know, personalities are an interesting thing to work with.
That's
and
it.
You need to be able to do that with people.
My best friend, who's I think she's Brisbane's best jazz pianist, and she works at Jazz Music Institute as a senior lecturer, but she always says kindness is free, and that's one of her biggest things that she teaches all of her students is, you know, you can be like exactly what you said, you can be the most talented, but if you're tricky to work with, you're not going to get the gig, mate.
No.
Yeah, just, you know, and really that's not saying teaching people to be people pleasers. Obviously you do have to have your own professional boundaries, but if you show up on time, you show up and you're respectful and kind, you'll always get heaps more work where that came from,
because you are yourself a brand and a business. So if someone from a business treated you in a way that was not respectful, that was not, you know, didn't listen, was not polite, you wouldn't go back, would you?
No.
So you need to treat yourself as if you are a business.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And did you find, because Kylie and I did a bit of business coaching last year as well, did that sort of help kind of start sort of seeing, I think you always had, to be honest, you've always had a natural entrepreneurial disposition in terms of you're very creative, you're very service orientated, everything that you do. I know about you is that you're always thinking about the audience, like what am I giving, you know, but did that kind of help you to sort of go, oh, actually I can, you know, package things together that I do really well and sort of see myself as.
Yeah, I think what I really gained from doing business coaching side of things with you is I had a lot of difficulty doing the drawstring. So I had all these like things. I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this or do that, but I didn't know where to start. I was really overwhelmed and didn't have any idea on how to even at that time project manage myself. And you gave me a lot of tools to start breaking it down into smaller manageable chunks and giving me tools that can help me get to those small goals rather than having an overarching goal and feeling overwhelmed by it. So that really helped me to start organizing my brain, because I'm quite known to be a little bit of a scatterbrain at times and don't know where to start, and I get decision paralysis, and then I get anxious that I'm going to make the wrong decision, and then I just don't do anything at all.
I think most people can identify with that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no, too hard basket. It's better not to try than be looked like a fool. But that's not the case. People are like, oh my gosh, that person is getting out there and doing these things and taking a chance and making bold decisions. And I wish I had the guts to do that. And
that, I think most people do think like that. But, I mean, we don't actually know what other people think.
No idea.
But I love that, because the voice that you just used, that's like I create a little cheerleader. Yeah. Like I've got a little cheerleader who talks to me like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, mate, you know, look, that wasn't cringe.
Yeah.
No, you're just being yourself, and you're funny and you're cute.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
Never apologize for
I have
being yourself.
I have this tiny little, you know, little alter ego that pumps me up, my little cheerleader.
Yeah. I think I have one too as well. She's quite cute, and she's also very soothing. She'd be like, that's okay. You know, next time, let's think about it from this way. How about when you're breathing, you just think about, you know, scooping in, because Mel tells you to scoop. So just scoop. Try it. It's okay. What's the worst that's going to happen?
What is the worst thing that's going to happen? Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's a great tactic that I always use as well. So what's the worst case scenario because I coach myself a lot on boundaries. Like if I just said no to that. Yeah, that's out of my scope.
Yep.
What was the worst thing that happened? And it's amazing where your mind will take you as to what is the worst thing that can happen. You're like, oh, darling, you really feel like that, and then I tap on that, and then I release it, because obviously there is a little cross-wire miscommunication that I've picked up from childhood between the ages of 1 and 5, where I thought that if I did that, this would happen. And this is why we're so lucky we've got so many tools.
Yep, I agree.
Kylie, I feel like you're just such an exceptional model of someone that is, you know, highly sensory. You know, I think that's going to be, if you're highly sensory for life. And that's cool, because that makes you an amazing freaking artist, so creative and so empathetic. Honestly, it's like, what a great quality to have. I'm not saying that anyone who isn't highly sensory can't have the same, you know, but I'm just saying we can reframe it to actually to pump ourselves up, because like I said before, it really is when we start connecting to this idea of service, like what is that we're bringing into the world, I feel like it does alleviate a lot of the fear. And I know that you do that, because you're just such a empathetic, always thinking about your audience. That's why you work so well in that space. Like it's like you're having a conversation, which is really beautiful. So I feel like you model being highly sensory, still have, you know, obviously anxiety, but you're not letting it stop you from doing anything. No. You know, you're going, okay, let's change the narrative around anxiety, what it actually means, and actually allowing it to be your friend. Like it's part of who you are. It's part of, And do you find that sometimes when you do kind of embrace it, it just dissolves anyway?
Yeah, it just sort of...
Well, it can sometimes.
It comes for the ride, and it... Once you get through it and you go, oh, okay, well, that wasn't as scary as I thought it was. And you have a conversation with yourself and go, well, okay, anxiety, next time, like it's good to have a little bit of anxiety. It means you care. Yeah. Like you really care. If you're apathetic, it comes out in your performance big time. Yeah. Like there's ways you can... Anxiety can be a wonderful tool if you know how to, you know, ebb and flow with it and work with it and rely on, you know, the methodology and the training and the techniques that you've developed over time to be able to have that still motivate you a little bit. I think that's not we frame anxiety as a bad thing. I don't think it is. I think it means that you've got a fire in you to do well and do your best, and you're afraid that, of things that are outside of your control perhaps. But yeah, it comes with you along for the ride. Like, you may as well put them in your purse rather
Absolutely.
than
I
stick
love
them in
that.
the trash out the back and hope that they just disappear.
Well, I think it's also about, like, you're not compartmentalizing yourself. You're like you're bringing every aspect of self, and being human. Oh my God, we're human beings. And just we're giving all of ourselves. And I think also too, anxiety can be a good cue as to be curious as to what's going on. So it helps us kind of, like what you do, you have those conversations saying, oh, well, what's the worst that can happen here? Or what is it that I need? And I feel like that's the other thing I wanted to say that you're really great at modeling is, okay, well, what do I need? Okay, I need clear checklists. I need to know for sure what I'm doing. Like, I need to have my charts organized. I need to have all my equipment all organized.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of like getting to know yourself, like knowing thyself, embracing thyself, and embracing our humanness. I feel like you're like the epitome of all of this stuff. And then being able to go, okay, well, and what are my tools? Like, what are the things that I can actually use in this moment to to get me to where I want to be?
Yeah. And sometimes you're not going to do it the best way every single time. That's okay. That's actually part of the fun of it, is going, you know what? That point in that moment of time in which I felt super anxious, or say your voice tenses up and it makes a weird noise, you can then sort of go, oh, well, that's interesting. So what are ways that I can just, in that moment, if I feel like I'm getting a bit tense, what's something I can do to alleviate in real time? Because retrospect is such a wonderful thing, but learning how to do things in real time is, that's the gold. That's where the money's at. When you understand yourself so much that you go, this is probably going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. This is okay. But then you're like, bam, yeah, I'm managing. Oh, yeah. Man, I'm project manager from with all the stars and the creds, because I know how to, ebb and flow with whatever gets thrown at you. Give me a curveball. All right, I'll use my left hand. No, I'm left-handed, so I'm pretty good at catching with my left hand. But boom, I used my right hand that time. Amazing. Yeah, it was a bit wobbly and I sort of flipped my hand around, but I caught the thing. Yeah. That was the goal. I caught it.
I love that so much. Actually, I forget who the celebrity was. It was a star singer. I saw a reel that when she has like a little squeak in her voice or something, like she goes, oh, there's a squeak.
Oh, yeah, you just love there
it is. I gave my audience a squeak, because, in the past, I know that I would have done a squeak or made some kind of weird noise and then thought about it for the entire bloody gig, and then drove home going, oh, I'm such a loser. In the past, obviously.
If you can let it go immediately and go, cute, then, if you can let it go and not dwell on it or let it ruin the rest of your performance. Because I know even with acting, like say in film acting, for example, if you are scrambling, you got a camera in your face like this, if you're even scrambling or you're back in your own self critiquing what you're doing at the time, you see it in the eyes. You can see the dropout from the moment that you are living to I'm critiquing that I did something wrong. There's such a subtle change, but you can actually see it on camera. So the more that you can just stay in the moment and not be editing what you're doing at the time, the better the performance is, and the more forgiving you are in yourself too. Because by the time that gets around, it's like old news to you.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And again, just coming back to the fact that we're humans, and and this whole, and creativity is beautiful chaos.
It is.
It's beautiful. Like our journeys are imperfect, and that's why they're good. That's why. Yeah, that's why we keep doing what we do. Well, can we finish on something? And I know this is kind of like one of those moments of like you're in the classroom and I'm going to ask you like a random curveball question. So sorry.
I'm ready.
Are you ready? What is one of your it doesn't have to be a song, but it could be like, I guess, a piece of art or meaningful piece of art or a song or music, something that's really meaningful to you and why.
Okay. I really, for some short time in my life, and I still do love now, but there's a band called Daughter that they're from the UK. Look them up. They're amazing. Her voice is ethereal, but I remember I was going through quite an existential time, and I'm like, what is world? What is life? What is me? And I remember this album came out, and I think I can't remember the name of the album, but it might be called Not to Disappear. Anyway, look it up. I remember having my headphones on, lying on the couch in the dark, being the broody mess I was, and I listened from start to finish this album, and I remember actually having a bodygasm. You know when you get like that flow state feel, and you kind of lose yourself, and it goes out like that. It was like this bodygasm high, and I think to me that always takes me back to how much music moves people and can move and change the way you think about things, or it has a moment in time in which it can take you back 15 years when you were at, you had your first heartbreak, you're sitting in the car crying, and you're crying to Linkin Park, and and you're just like, I've become so numb. Anytime that song comes on, you are transported immediately back to that.
Yeah.
That one point in time. Now, if that's not powerful, and that album did that to me, and I will still, if I ever hear a song, I'm back exactly to that spot. I can see the image of that place almost in an outer body way, where I see myself lying on that couch in that spot from this perspective. And I just remember, feeling that intense sensory bodygasm. I'm like, who would have sex when you can have that? That's amazing.
I feel like that is the perfect time to end this interview. Who needs sex when you have music?
Is this the 8:30 time slot? No. Okay, PG only.
It's it's YouTube. I just have to click not made for kids.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'm never made for kids, trust me. You can always assume that something awkward is going to come out of my mouth, so...
Oh, I let a few F-bombs fly in this interview, so...
You're so rude, man.
I know, my mum picks me up on it all the time. She goes, yeah, it was good, but you shouldn't have said the F word.
Do I need to take you out back and wash your mouth out with soap?
Yeah, I feel like there is an element of that. But I try really hard not to. It just comes out. So, which, is for genuine... when I'm emphasizing, like it's genuinely emphatic when I do say it. So it's not like for the purpose of, Yeah,
it feels good sometimes.
Sometimes it does. Yes.
And when you're like really cute like you, and suddenly you drop an F-bomb, it's just like, did you just say that? That's so cute when she says it.
Yes. Yeah. She's got a little trucker mouth, this one.
Yeah.
Boy. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You've just honestly, what a beautiful gift to give everybody. Like you can have big feelings all the time about singing, but still be doing it.
Yes.
And knowing that, you can go for whatever it is that you want. If you want to be working with a band, if you want to go and make an album, if you want to be the next, what did you say? Kylie Minogue Jr.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You can, whatever it is that you want to do, it's totally possible at any age.
Yep.
And your journey does not have to look like anybody else's. It's your journey. So, and I think Kylie's story is a testament to that. You might go back to university to do music, but it doesn't matter because she's performing. Yep. She's doing it anyway. Most stuff that you can learn, like, not to dismiss university because I loved going to university.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool.
You can learn a lot of stuff off YouTube, just putting that out there. Yeah. If you want to learn how to read music, you can do it in a couple of hours on YouTube.
Do it your way. That's my only advice. Do it your way and just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Oats.
but I mean,
That was perfect.
just do it.
Just do it. All right. On that note, just do it.